What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm a little stuffy tonight, so forgive me, but I wanted to talk to you guys about Lord of Light by Mr. Roger Zelazny. Um, I just recently, if you watched my last haul video, picked up this very nice book club edition, hardcover, which I'm pumped on. It's got a cool vintage cover and love a good hardback for the collector's pile. But this Blue Avon was the one that I read months ago now. So I'll caveat this review with it's been a while since I've really thought about this book since I read it, but it was puzzling to start off trying to figure out kind of how to describe this one. If you've read Zelazny, and this is my only Zelazny that I've read so far, you will know that his prose and his way of writing is not for everybody. And I don't mean that in a he can be um, like not everybody can read him. It's not everybody will enjoy reading him. Uh, it seemed to me in this book that the way he likes to structure his stories, the way he likes to explore his characters and plot, um, if you can call what he does here plot, I guess you kind of have to, but it's different from your traditional way of experiencing, let's just say, your average science fiction novel of the 60s and 70s. This book was published in 67. I believe it's a Hugo winner. Let me see if it's on here. Yes, extraordinary Hugo Award-winning novel. I don't know exactly why I chose this one for my list when I was building out my 25, but I think this specific like physical book was just so I really wanted to like read this, I guess. The blue is very sharp. It's got yellow and green, and it just got a really interesting cover where I was just like very compelled by figuring out what was going on in this book. And let me tell you, I don't even know if I really understand after reading it. Um, to set the scene, we have essentially a story about a very distant future. Humans discover technology uh, basically to keep them immortal. They can kind of transfer their consciousness. They can utilize technology to essentially be immortal beings, be gods. And they travel to a distant planet with non humans, who they refer to as demons, who are inhabited with non humans, who they call demons, and essentially erect the Hindu um, pantheon of gods and goddesses and rule as such. So one thing that I liked about what Zelazny did in this book is he makes it very um, ambiguous and blurs the lines between whether something is magic or something is uh, technologically advanced. So I'm trying to like Jack Vance in Dying Earth. If you have read that or are familiar with that, I think it's indistinguishable sometimes whether something is a spell or it's a magical, incantation or something, or if somebody just, if the far distant future that the story is set in is so far technologically advanced that you can't tell whether it's magic or not. It's essentially magic, if that makes sense. So because of that, I think you have this really cool blending of mythology and science fiction slash fantasy that really did at times scratch an itch that I've never really encountered before. Um, I don't think you're going to find many books like this one, at least with themes as well written as this one, because I think that while I was very confused at points in the book, uh, Zelazny does enough to keep you engaged. He does a lot to keep you engaged. But not all of it makes sense. I think he can be kind of self-indulgent sometimes because he clearly has an interest in and an expertise in the Hindu mythology, Hindu religion. Just he knows about a lot of the terminology and whatnot. So it was interesting to me because I'm not familiar. I was not familiar before reading this book, really anything about it, and so got a little bit of an education through this and learned about that kind of because you can imagine trying to learn textbook textbook terms from a science fiction novel. uh, I don't really feel like I know much more about Hindu religion after this, but I did think it was fascinating at times. So as far as like plot goes, it's really hard to kind of talk about it in a video in short form, but Zelazny essentially breaks up the plot into, I want to say, 7 main chapters. Yep, should be 7. I don't know if there's a table of contents in here. There's not. 7 main chapters, which are essentially 7. You could kind of think of them as short stories. They are all very connected, um, but they're not chapters in the sense of we see something happen from this character's perspective and then cliffhanger, chapter ends, and then we go to the next chapter and it just like picks up in the chronological line. You don't know exactly how some of these different chapters are related in terms of the timeline or in terms of the cause and effect of things, because that's another thing that I think Zelazny did on purpose, was kind of make it very ambiguous. Like characters don't just die or kill somebody. Like they can be resurrected. They can be reincarnated. They can. It, it's a hard novel to break down in a review. So forgive me for not a lot of specific instances, and I hate that I waited this long to review this one because it's it's very fuzzy in my head. But um, the main character's name is Sam, and he essentially takes on the form of Siddhartha, or eventually Buddha, and kind of uses his way of thinking, his way of his way of doing religion, essentially in this far future world, um, a far future version of Hinduism, Buddhism, to try to tear down these really what are evil gods, evil human beings who became gods essentially. And I won't say whether he does or not because again, ambiguous. I don't really know how this book ends because it kind of does a dot dot dot. It feels like at the end, where you're kind of left with a little bit of trying to remember exactly. Yeah, it's one of those books where it ends. Kind of gave me some C.S. Lewis at the end, very flowery language that I just was. Uh, it just felt like very ethereal. Might be a good word. I might not be using that correctly, but um, it felt larger than life. It felt like I was I was very immersed in this very far future Hindu um, like I didn't really know what was going on because I don't think I was supposed to be grounded in the world as much as Zelazny. Like he wanted to keep you a little bit in the dark, I think, purposefully as the reader. Um, excuse me, I apologize for my voice again. I just a little bit stuffy, but this book's been on my mind for a while. This was next up in the list of 25 that I wanted to review. that I read, and I just got through reading Past Master, and if you watch that review, I kind of feel like there are some similarities in the writing styles where um, the very um, not coming up with a good word right now, but just the unique writing style that R.A. Lafferty had in Past Master and the unique writing style that Zelazny has in this um, gave me kind of, they felt like sort of like twin brothers in a sense, but saying much different things, doing much different things with their stories. And, but it did feel a little bit like that, possibly because of the like, you're not dealing with a human being with human stakes and rules essentially of life and death. I think because in Past Master you have a character who is like brought back from the past to be in a far distant future, and then the rules of engagement are a little bit different. And then you have this where like sometimes you're like, is that character dead? Oh no, he's not, but he did die. And then you're just a little bit off. You're thrown off by things like that. But I think suspending your disbelief, um, and just being able to kind of roll with the punches in this book is probably what you got to do if you want to try to enjoy it, because it can get a little bit frustrating at times. I remember in the reading experience, kind of a third, maybe halfway through, I was like, I got to finish this thing because I think I told myself I was not going to DNF any of these 25 books that I had on my list. You got to finish it, figure it out. If you don't like it, that's fine, but get through it. And I ended up liking this book. I think the longer the time goes on, I like it more and more when I think about it. And that could be a little bit of like, I'm thinking about it in the way I think about it in my head is different from what I actually experienced when reading it. But I do think I'll read it again at some point, knowing what I'm in for. Uh, because yeah, it's not exactly one that I would recommend if you're starting off with science fiction, or maybe even starting off with Zelazny. I would be curious to know if you're a Zelazny fan. In the comments, let me know what other Zelazny books should I read, because I have quite a few that I picked up from a thrift store a long time ago. That's where I got this one. Um, and I'm kind of wanting to dip my toe back into his stuff at some point. I might try some of his short fiction to kind of see if this is kind of just the way he does things. But my interest continues to stay peaked for Mr. Z. But yeah, Lord of Light, I think if I were to give it a number, I think when I first read it, I think I felt like a strong six maybe when I finished it. But the longer time goes on, the more I feel like that's kind of underselling it, and it isn't doing it justice. So I feel like the steps that he took, the bold steps that he took in this book, to really swing for the fences and just do something that I don't know if it had been done at the time, for being in the 60s. I mean, this is just I would say it's a pretty impressive piece of fiction. Um, so I can't quite put a number on it, but it feels like at least a 7.5 to me, um, in hindsight. So, yeah, that's been Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. Um, I hope that if you read it, if you've read it, let me know what you thought. If you end up reading it because of this video, please revisit this and tell me what you thought. I really enjoy being able to put people onto books that they haven't heard of or haven't read before. But yeah, this I think was like, we're getting into close to being done with the 25 book challenge that I started this channel with. So we have probably 7 left to go, maybe, I think. Uh, haven't looked at the list and counted it in a little while, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope it made sense, because I feel like this is a very, very hard book to pin down, like I said. But appreciate you watching as always. Thank you guys so much. I will see you in the next video. Peace.